Oh, yes. And it's 7:35. Yeah. I only have 71 years, 192 days, 15 hours, 24 minutes, and 40 seconds before I'm going to die. Last night I was thinking about the day of my death as being a day before my 120th birthday. And we're really in a crunch today because you've scheduled a cell hearing where I have to appear in court. Yes. hmm in 4 days, 1 hour and 54 minutes. Now, I thought I'd start with the Bible because why would your day of death be 120 years old? Actually, have to be before the 120th birthday. Looking in Genesis, yeah, God did tempt Abraham. Mhm. Genesis 22, verse 1, and it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham. And he said unto him, Abraham, and he said, Behold, here I am. And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering, upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of. Well, Abraham was very obedient, and it came to pass in verse 9, which God had told him of, built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord came unto him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. Verse 12. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. Now, it seems that Abraham was one of these in Genesis that had a real personal relationship with God, and God did tempt him, wanted to see what he would do in certain situations. Now, last night I was kind of laying on the emergency bed, channel surfing through. I actually counted the channels. There was 20 of them. 4 of them were duplicate channels, and one of them was in Spanish. In chapter 23, yes, and Sarah was 107 and 20 years old. Sarah was the wife of Abraham, yeah, and she lived 127 years old, yeah, and then she died in Kirjatha Arba. And Abraham stood up before them in verse 3, stood up from before his dead, and spake unto his sons of Heth, saying, I am a stranger and a sojourner, and with you give me a possession of a burying place with you, and that I may bury my dead out of my sight. Yes. But there's no space between burying place. Yeah. I don't think it's one word. Yeah. It could be a typographical error in the Bible. Yes. And the Bible's wrong. Now, it was kind of interesting. Yeah. In chapter 25, then Abraham took a wife, and her name was Keturah. Seems that he got remarried. Now, these are the days of the years of Abraham's life. Chapter 25, Genesis, verse 7. Days of the years of Abraham's life, which he lived 100 threescore and 15 years. Fourscore, a score is 20 years, so he lived 175 years old. His wife died at 127 years old. Kind of lived a long life back then in Genesis, didn't they? Yeah. But when I had read the Bible, there were some giants in the land. Yes. Thought themselves were the sons of God. um, is there any giants that I don't know about? Any DNA? Yeah. Now, I've read through much of Genesis. Yeah. I don't know chapter and verse, but I did have a good gist of what its meaning was. 2 full years the Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, stood by a river. Oh, there was Joseph was brought down to Egypt. It came to pass, Judah and brethren. It kind of skips around a lot in Genesis. Isaac was old, his eyes were dim, so that he could not see. He called to Esau, my son said, and behold, here I am. It says here that you really shouldn't live past 120 years. Are you expecting to live past 120 years? You know, you scheduled a cell hearing for Friday, and this morning I'm going to talk to you about a long life. I'm not afraid I'm going to die, but somebody else is. Did you want to take me off the docket? You know, when I have 71 more years to live, because the Bible says that a man shouldn't live past the 120th year. And for the next 71 years, all I get to use is my brain, or is it my body? Let's say I had a baby with an 18-year-old, and at the time of my death, they're 88 years old instead of 18. Shh. For every woman that